Hi everybody, it's Felix here from the Heart Centre. Welcome back to my channel. Today is Friday, the 26th of September 2025. I'm here doing my energy report for just the update for what's gone on through September through to October, as I usually have a kind of crossover, a crossover between the past month through to the next month. Everything that I kind of get, it basically plays into one another. So there's different streams of kind of information that will kind of link up to the past one and also link up to the next one. So I try and keep it in that way so it becomes easy to understand and easy to process. Then if you need to kind of go back, um, you can then just go back and review it and see how it kind of links up for you. So just before I get started, I'm going to do a self-care Monday on the 6th of October, Monday the 6th of October at 6 p.m. UK time. I don't think I've even put it up on my website yet, but by the time this goes out, it will be up. Then on the 7th of October, we've got the Structures of Healing Level 1. That's going to run for 8 weeks on a Tuesday evening. All sessions are going to be recorded. And there is also a community that's being built around that, in which you guys can kind of work on each other. You can develop or ask questions. And yeah, basically to build a community around the structures of healing and how to do it. And also this course that I'm doing is certificated. So if you want to be able to practice this, you will have coursework and client work to do, in which you can then kind of submit to me, so I can read your client work there and understand what's going on for you and see how you're progressing. From the 8th to the 13th of October, I'm going to be in Ireland. I'm going to be doing some grid work on the 9th in the Hill of Tara with some lovely people from Connecting Consciousness. On the 10th, I'm going to be doing a day retreat at Earth's Magic Healing Center in Carlow. So if you want to come to that, you can drop me an email or go direct to contact Rebecca, who runs the Earth's Magic Healing Day Retreat Center. And that will run from 10 till 4 p.m. On the 10th of October. Then the 11th and the 12th, I'm going to be doing in-person sessions at the Earth's Magic Healing Center at a reduced rate. So if you want to get involved in that and you want to come and work with me over there, then I'm going to be doing that in person, and I would love to work with you, love to meet you. And yeah, see you there. So then coming back on the 13th, and then I'm pretty sure I've got nothing else logged in for that month. I am thinking about doing a Samhain full field recalibration on the 31st, but I might bring that forwards. I don't know. I'll see how I feel. So I'm kind of going with the flow through October, because September's been amazing, but it's been very full on as well, which I've been very grateful for. I've had such an amazing month. I even saw my auntie for the first time in 20 years, and that was amazing. I loved every minute of that. It was really, really nice to reconnect with her. So if you do watch this, Jane, I love you. And yeah, thanks for connecting with me. So we're going to jump into the energy update for the month. So we're just going to kind of start off with where we were through August. There was during August, I was really kind of taken into the Black Tree of Life. And this seems to be like a kind of ongoing theme of facing your demons. So that kind of really presented itself and worked into dissolving psychosis imprints and fear imprints that were kind of generated around this Black Tree of Life. Anyone who doesn't know what the Black Tree of Life is, it is effectively the shadow structure connected to the Kabbalistic Tree of Life, which the Kabbalistic Tree of Life is a structure of consciousness evolution. However, it is a distorted, reversed teaching in and of itself, because this was brought in a long time ago But it reduces, so the Black Tree of Life, or just the Kabbalistic Tree of Life, operates from either 10 or 11 spheres, usually 10, and then the 11th one, the Darth one, opens up. This Tree of Life structure is designed to tell you that you have a limited amount of chakras, a limited amount of strands of DNA, and basically reduces your ability to process, reduces your ability to kind of evolve within a specific framework that is Antichrist. So this Kabbalistic Tree of Life can have some elements of light within it. However, it is a distorted teaching, so it reduces down the amount of DNA strands. It reduces down the amount of chakras, so it reduces and seals out your divine blueprint and your high heart, basically. Now, when the Darth opens, this actually connects into the 8th sphere, which would be seen as like the kind of 11th within the Black Tree of Life, the Darth sphere. And this one connects into the galactic core. Now, anyone who follows Lisa Renee, follows Ashliana Dean, follows myself, follows Sarah Salmon, they know that and many others as well, I just can't list them all off the top of my head, who discuss and talk about this stuff. The galactic core was the part that was heavily taken over, and the Darth structure, after you've kind of gone, I believe after you've gone through like the levels, I don't know this for sure, I would ask Sarah about this because she's really great at processing this kind of stuff. The Darth becomes activated, and then you're going into the real deep dark mess that became the galactic core after layers of artificial intelligence was brought in and kind of switched off the high heart current. And that basically was the heart of the reversal that was woven through this fake morphogenetic field that holds the reversal consciousness that kind of interlocks with the artificial tree and the black tree. So these black trees, the black tree and the artificial tree, they work together. They're two sides of the same coin. One is more demonic, one is more artificial. And when they hybridize together, you get like hybrid AI demonic structures that kind of come through this and basically leech and sap your energy. So we're currently in a phase of breaking through and facing the demons that hold the strongholds over the Black Tree of Life, which basically you're claiming more and more of your power back from this structure by processing the deep states of fear and reversal consciousness that's playing through your mind. Now, this period of September, when we come out of Lionsgate and go into the equinox, it becomes very, very intense with the processing of really deep fear, high levels of addiction that's been coming up. We're looking at kind of the breakdown of psychosis and the breakdown of fear. Now, this was really interesting to me because through this process, it took me to the clearing of the psychosis templates. It was actually really interesting because I had a dream, and Magenta Pixie said in my dream to me, "You've got to clear the psychosis template." That was very, very, very pronounced. And the first thing that I did that day was I got up and I said, "What the fuck is that?" So that then took me into the processing of the Dark Night of the Soul. And where I kind of went in and out of personal levels of psychosis. That then took me into the collective field, and we can see how psychosis has been kind of implemented through the group field and how it has been kind of influencing how people see the world. So when we're looking at this, we're looking at high charges of fear that restrict the perception of the population from being able to see the truth because they're surrounded by fear. So as that kind of comes up, the layers of the group field, their perception is restricted, so they're looking out through kind of like a fractured lens, and they're getting multiple fragments of the truth, but it's warped and it's distorted. So as it's coming in, it's relaying an inverted image, an inverted perception or understanding of what the truth actually is happening. And this all started to work itself out. It was very clear, very key with the timing, because this was probably about the beginning of September. And as we're kind of working through and processing out the psychosis template, this would then it was then projected outwards and brought into it was brought into my awareness of the media and how they play their part in it, and how we've got like these Armageddon war timelines and pestilence programs, etc. These kinds of things that also interweave in the generation of psychosis that fuels the psychosis template, that's driven by fear and creates a detachment from reality. So on a personal level and also on a collective level, there's a big chunk of the personality that rejects the truth as to what's going on. So we've got a separation of truth and a functioning perception that is glazed with kind of like psychosis. So, and that's an extreme word, I know. It's just one way for me to describe, and I don't think it's completely vibrationally accurate as a term, but it's for me to kind of present it at the moment. It feels like I can kind of get away with it. So through the fragmentation of the personality, that then layers imbalanced perceptions of how we view the world. And as that's coming back in, this is a dark trap in and of itself to kind of weave people into negative structures to ultimately generate loosh for the negative system to draw upon the resources and feed itself. And then that gets basically stored back out. It runs through the base 10 tree of life, the Kabbalistic tree of life, or the artificial tree of life, and then gets stored within what's called a black cube system. And then that gets then refed outwards to either, number one, weaponize against us with fear modulations and fed back out into the artificial timelines. That then shuts us down, and we sit clouded by the fear to block us again from seeing, or it gets weaponized, it gets fed back into negative structures to give it life. Can I have that back, please? So as this structure is absorbing the fear and absorbing the life force, it basically comes back out and hits you, which then generates a kind of distorted perception by mixing multiple signals. One part of it will be a slight little bit of truth, and the rest of it will be kind of chaos. It will be pain, it will be suffering, it will be all these kinds of things. So the truth frequency feels like, oh my God, this is real, but the fear is so exaggerated, it warps the truth as it comes in. So the delusion or the psychosis of what's being presented breaks down and warps the mind, and that then leads into mind control. Basically, that's how we kind of like get pulled into different things. Now, the psychosis aspect of this, the processing of the psychosis template, ties back into the demonic structures, because they're the ones that produce the fear entities that leach into the fear modulations and then get interwoven with your belief systems through the emotional charge that you generate by interacting with the material we're reading, or the movies we're watching, or, you know, whatever's coming through the news. That's how it kind of comes in. And it's becoming very, very clear of that, how that operates and how it links together, because it's the emotional engagement is the thing that intertwines you with the negative charge. Okay. So with that engagement, it creates a manifestation because we've matched the vibration of it, and then it starts to interlink with one another. So this is why it's very important to start training ourselves to become very objective when reading. And ultimately, what I've kind of been processing around this and understanding around this, which actually led into the 9/11 timeline, it was the psychosis template generated through fear modulations and through uh, generated through fear modulations that fed back into the 9/11 timeline. So as we're looking at that, we're going to come to the event of Charlie Kirk. Now, Charlie Kirk is a Christian. He went out and spoke his truth. That was what he believed. He was not rude. If you look at any of his videos, he was very polite. He let people talk. He was not against anyone's beliefs, but he had his own belief systems for it. But he stood in his Christianity, and that is absolutely a-okay. There is nothing wrong with that because every other person is allowed to do that with their own belief systems as well. So this assassination attempt on the 10th, on the I think it was the 8th of the 11th, if I'm not mistaken. Oh no, it was the 10th of the 11th because America has it reversed, doesn't it? So it was the 10th of the 11th, which is the 10th of the 9th, sorry, which is the day before the 9/11 attack. Now, what ties into that is, I'm going to thank Sarah for helping me understand this part as well, and also Lisa Renee, because I was kind of putting things together in my head. I had it kind of there, and I had to kind of outsource a little bit of validation. So I kind of looked at the Ascension Glossary for this one, and I also spoke to Sarah about this because it was horrible. It was very traumatic, but the event itself, it was a target on Christianity, which connects into the 9/11 attacks, which was basically a drawing a line in the sand of what the negatives wanted to do, and that was they wanted to kind of control the timelines. This was another attempt at that, even though they don't have the power to kind of sway or do anything, but a portion of the people who were looking at this would have fallen into that same loop cycle. The only difference is here is because it was a specific targeted person, the consciousness of that person that was Christian basically created a Christianity revival. It flipped a whole bunch of left-wingers to right-wingers and brought a whole load of people back to the church. And there were no wars, there were no riots, there were no burning of shops or protests or anything like that, unlike some of the other movements on the other side, which I'm not going to go into right now. But you can do your own research on that. There was no war, there was no protest, and this basically was a returning to Christ, which was just so beautiful because that energy of the revival. I've already spoken about this on my social media, by the way. I spoke about it like around the day, probably like a day afterwards, after I kind of pulled my awareness in with it. The shift of consciousness that happened around that event basically unified a big chunk of the collective field all around the world, and that brought people together. And the purpose of this, and I'll jump back to the clearing of the psychosis templates, because the purpose of this was for them to make a choice. And it was a choice of whether they want to stay on the other side. And this isn't about right or left. This is a spiritual war. This is very much about choosing God and choosing life or choosing anti-life. So this basically pulled many people back into alignment, and it cleared, as we went through the clearing of the psychosis templates, many people were able to see the truth. They were able to see what was really going on, and that enabled them to realign. So that clearing of the psychosis templates enabled people to be shocked into a position where they were able to choose rather than be put into a state of fear. And that brought everything together back into alignment with Christianity, back into alignment with Christ. And that effectively crystallized or immortalized Charlie Kirk's mission in the hearts and minds of everybody, whether you like him or you don't. Everybody knows who he is, everybody knows what his mission is or what his mission was. And that essentially created enough charge for him to move through ascension, move back to his position at the right hand of God. And this also created him as a martyr. So he dedicated his life to a cause of truth, of a cause of Christianity. And that basically aligned. If he was a shepherd, he would align his herd back into the truth and into the light. And that's exactly what happened. Now, on the negative side of this, they wanted to create destruction, they wanted to create chaos, and they wanted to generate enough charge to try and pull back a bit of power into their timeline. However, the counterflip of this is because of what happened with Charlie Kirk and his ascension process, and also the crystallization of his teachings, his memory into the hearts and minds of everybody, that basically broke down lots of their power, and it basically creates ripples through the negative timeline of very quite similar to what happened with Christ. He became well, I don't need to explain what Christ is, but his teachings then became imprinted in humanity, and it became a pathway of love to take us out of the delusion and into alignment with source. Okay, so the beauty of this event is that it was selflessly given. Naturally, nobody wanted it to happen, apart from some people who were cheering his death. You know, nobody would ever wish that upon anybody. It's a horrible way to go out. But what that did was basically shaped a pathway and brought a whole bunch of people together. Now, there was something I was going to say there as well, but I can't remember what that is. I'm going to ask for it back and see whether it comes back. So we've got the clearing of the psychosis templates, which opened the eyes of humanity. Then we had the Charlie Kirk event, and that then pushed people into a unification back onto the side of light and cemented their pathway. There was no war, there was no fighting, and ultimately this kind of created a backlash for the negative structure, which did not, it didn't go the way that they wanted it to go, which is great. So through the awareness and the awakening of humanity back to Christ, this triggered heaps of healing in many, many different layers. The healing that took place was all different levels of divine masculine healing, whether it was divine father healing, whether it was kind of just divine masculine healing. It pulled people up to step into their power. Now, as that noble masculine Holy Father imprint was also coming in to layers of the collective field, into humanity, this then triggered a healing along the Blue Ray family line, which has a very big contract to heal and repair the fallen Sophianic consciousness. So where we've got the Holy Father stepping up and the presence of the Holy Father through this really insane experience with Charlie Kirk, the Holy Father moves in. This creates a harmonization and a balance. Through the grief, the Holy Father steps up to play, and the noble masculine steps up to play, bringing people together. That then creates an opening for realignment with the mother. So this event then triggered multiple layers of healing within what's called the Achamoth, which is the fallen Sophianic, or the fallen Sophianic reversal, which is based upon anti-life creations. So the Achamoth basically creates negative spirits, and this effectively went into the realignment of the Holy Mother and basically worked to heal that template. Now, I'm going to get onto a little bit more about what went on here because this I'm going to fast forward to going to Rosslyn Chapel. The Rosslyn Chapel grid work was beautiful. It was amazing. When we got to Scotland, even going to Scotland beforehand, driving up there, there was a very strong pain in the heart. And as I got into the chapel, the first thing that I noticed is the Rothschilds' name on the plaque and also the Getty family's name on the plaque of entry. So this is, I think this is one of the oldest churches in the United Kingdom, if I'm not mistaken. And it is where the Rose line runs through. So we've got the triple solar feminine energies coming in through the Rose line that's being spread vertically down the country. We've also got the spine of Albion, I believe, that connects in with it. I could be wrong about this. I've got it somewhere on my desktop. I just can't remember where it is. Maybe it's on here. Nope. Okay. Well, yeah, the triple solar feminine runs through the Rose line, and when we got into the chapel, the very first thing that I heard was the mother returns at Easter. Now, that's an equinox to an equinox away. I personally already feel like the mother has returned to some degree, but whether this is another birthing of mother consciousness that's coming back into alignment. But through that interaction, whilst I was there, the mother of dragons came in, and then her memory, as I walked down into the crypt, lifted up all of this artificial intelligence, and I had become aware of the level of victimization that's woven through the artificial charge that sits at Rosslyn Chapel. So as I connected in there, it's like the light of the mother that came in lifted up the memory. And this is normally what happens when you go and do any kind of grid work. You're pulling in so much light, which is triggering up the heaviness or the darkness that kind of interlooped or interlocked within the land. And you're able to process this for them and for her. So we're able to heal and resolve a big chunk of something. So the memory that came up was the fracturing of the mother away from her family. This felt like it was tied into the planetary logos at the seventh dimensional level, where the ripping apart of the planetary brain occurred and the implementation of artificial intelligence that took over during that phasing, which basically wired through high charges of victimization into the mind of the mother. Now, this works on both sides, but this time I was kind of pulled into the mother consciousness because of the triggering of the healing of the Akamoth and the Sophianic template, which everybody is going to have a part to play within this of restoring the divine feminine, restoring the mother consciousness. It's just understanding what you're looking for, really. So as we're kind of going in there, this memory of being torn away from my family or her family, because when you experience it as if it's you going through it, and that's the devastating part. That's why we have to spend time developing what's the word? Objectivity. So we're able to neutrally process it, and yes, it can be very emotional. It can be very full on, but we try not to get too pulled into that. So we're able to neutralize it and process it more easily. So as this was coming up, this drive of victimization led into insanity that turned the feminine into a victimizer impulse, which attracted the artificial intelligence through both mother and father. and she'd kind of turned to because the trauma was so great and the split was there, and we've got this manifestation of artificial hybrid kind of consciousness that is based upon war. They are service to self. That kind of inverted the way the mind would work, and that then went on to target and attack. So what I felt like I was kind of perceiving was the creation point of the fallen mother consciousness, which I think is a big chunk of the Achamoth. Now that was then being kind of, it took me probably about 4 or 5 days to go through that because it was so full on. Another thing that was also occurring there was the tweaking of the vibrational frequency of the platinum crystals to the Sun Disk network, which sits at Rosalind Chapel. And I had several other clients that also had parts to play within the other Sun Disk networks, which then drew down the Solar Christ genetics. And that was then being reprinted back in to layers of where the Achamoth had gone through the processing and the healing to allow more of the mother consciousness to move in. So, like I said, everybody has had a part to play within this. So one way or another, there will be some level of, number one, divine masculine father consciousness healing, which has pulled people back into alignment with kind of solidarity, strength, and kind of holding a boundary and fighting their corner, which has then allowed the feminine to kind of come up and feel safe enough to process, because we've got a big chunk more power that's come back in. This starts to harmonize the seventh dimensional planetary logos brain, and it also creates balance within the masculine feminine principle within our own minds and within our own structure. So this balances out the hierogamic joins and the gender twin ratio proportions, so they can start to create a balance within the hierogamic union, and starts neutralizing polarity in a very, very different, more potent way. That's what I can say about that at the moment, and it is quite a mouthful. So where we've got this kind of vertical alignment with the Sun Disk and the Christ genetics, which is allowing us to birth the golden child within, which is the embodiment of the higher self, the embodiment of the Christ within, that comes in with the reharmonization and balancing of the mother and the father, which we've just seen all of that play out through the equinox. Okay, lots of stuff going on. So another part of this is that the Hyperborean portal of Scotland, that this planetary logos held at the seventh dimensional field is the Hyperborean mind. So this is held within the Gaian matrix. So we've had a healing of the connection point to seventh dimensional Earth Gaia, which held the planetary logos for this planet. And that's also the repair of the Hyperborean root race. So we're looking at strand 1 of the DNA. So lots and lots and lots of processing that has kind of taken place whilst we reintegrate the golden sun the golden sun Christ sun race genetic. Okay, so sorry if I'm confusing you all. This is quite a mouthful to deliver. So this processing brought more of the Christ intelligence into the body for us to kind of upgrade and update our hearts as we're going through a recoding. And as this occurred, the interesting factor is I came back, and after doing everything that was done, I actually had a healing session with a fabulous healer called Jeannie. She's based in the US. And if you want to contact her, just let me know and I'll give you her details. Just send me an email. She pulled up all of the same information that I'd gone through without even saying anything to her. And this then worked to rehabilitate the wings of my personal wings, whereas this grid work was about bridging the planetary wings, which also moves to bring the embodiment level of the higher self mind. Now, as that was occurring, we've also got this just I think it was either just before or just after, or just as I was getting there, the sixth dimensional field moved into a recode, where we've got the realignment of the sixth dimensional field. So this is where the hirogamic connection points connect in at the sixth dimensional level and the seventh dimensional level, bridges through the eighth dimensional level. The vertical pillar and alignment of the higher consciousness starts to realign and move back into process, and that will happen in a few months' time. But obviously, we're going to go through stages of it. It's not just all going to happen at once, but it's going to gradually get stronger and stronger and stronger. So as this is coming in, we've got this correction of the mental body architecture, or the rod architecture. And that again ties back into the Hyperborean portal, which is the landmass where well, it's actually the galactic core where the universal rod sat, but it was governed. I could be wrong about this. It was governed by, or the rod architecture is held by the solar dragon Ezekiel, which we've talked about many times before, and that basically had been brought back into realignment. Now, the interesting fact about this is it started to trigger up the reversal architectures that had been warping the mental body architecture with AI reversals, AI signals. And that brought me into the awareness of back to the Kabbalistic tree of life, or the Black Tree of Life. And the two entities that were highlighted here were Asmodeus, or Samael the Black, who basically sits as judgment, which creates all this separation, and that's starting to phase out of the group field. And we saw a big correction to this through, or awareness of, maybe not correction to this, because I don't think we're that there yet in the collective mind, but the correction to this on through the Charlie Kirk incident. So we've got this correction there, which has triggered the awareness of the judgment and the choice point to step out of judgment. And as we're claiming back the mind, we're then able to process the judgment and see things for as they are, as we're clearing out the psychosis template, and not to be fooled and confused by the prosecutor judge archetype. Okay, so not only are we kind of processing all of that information, which stems from this demonic archdemon, Asmodeus, Samael the Black, and also, interestingly enough, is represented as Yaldabaoth. And Yaldabaoth is the first creation of fallen Sophia. So it was the chief archon that was the one that split everything else apart, according to the Gnostics. So it was very interesting how all of these things are kind of tied in together as we're processing out the processing and healing the Sophianic template, and healing the Achamoth. So now we've gone back there, and now we're working to heal and repair the first miscreation of Sophia. So that pulls us back into a very big full circle. And now the other aspect of that is the the Black Lilith aspect, which ties back into a lower creation point, or like a kind of a female archdemon, or archdemoness, whatever they're called, who reproduces negative entities through now I'm going to thank Sarah for this one, through copulation rituals upon the altars. So Yeah, I mean, that's all kind of been coming out, and I'm on Friday, September 26th. I am still processing this at the moment. There is so much there, and I feel like this Asmodeus Black Lilith stuff is just going to keep on coming. But ultimately, what this is going to lead to is it's going to be an overthrowing of the demonic hierarchy, uh, aligned with the Black Tree of Life Kabbalah. That's where I'm at. That's what I'm seeing for the collective field. And it's just about whether people are kind of tapping into that and processing it. I understand that working to process demonic consciousness is not easy. Um, it can be, but it's just about how strong your boundary is with it, and how okay you feel in yourself when processing it, because it can become very intense. The more we work by building our light, the stronger we're going to get by processing this stuff, or the stronger we're going to get whilst processing this stuff. So it's a process to process, but we can all do this. We can all deliver this. And when I have more information on these demonic hierarchies and understand it a bit more and integrate it a whole lot more, which hopefully by the end of next month I should have heaps more to tell you for that. But in the meantime, that's kind of what's been going on. Those are the themes. And yeah, I'm going to send you all so much love. And I will look forward to seeing you whenever I see you. I'm going to be, there's no point in me saying this now because I'm going to be at White Lights this weekend, but that's tomorrow. And this is going out on the 1st. So yeah, sending you all so much love, so much joy, so much happiness. And remember, guys, we are strongest when we are together. Excuse my sore throat on my I've got a bit of a cough at the moment, but it's not gonna get me down. So we are strongest when we're together. We have just seen as well the digital ID being posted out. I don't feel like this is fully going to get implemented. However, there is work to do around this to become very, very aware of it and how it's kind of being implemented. The ultimate game of it is not to comply. The reasons why, it's all leading into control, as you all already know. So I don't need to teach you to suck eggs. But there is a petition going around, which I'll leave linked down below, where you can sign up to it. It's already on about 800,000 or 900,000 by now. So yeah, loads of love, everyone. Happy new month, and I will see you soon. Take care. Bye.